Before we begin, I want you to take note. Everything the left claimed would happen under Donald Trump, chaos with all of our allies overseas, foreign policy disasters, economic instability, humanitarian calamities. Oh, and I'd like to add one more. The fact he's becoming a dictator. None of that happened. None of it. In fact, the machine was running quite well, if you remember. Before COVID, the economy was on fire. The world took us seriously. The border was secure. But now all of these disastrous things they claimed were going to happen under Trump are now policy under Joe Biden. Oh, and he's, in case you missed this, his patience is growing thin. He's becoming more and more like a dictator every day. And it's crisis after crisis after crisis. And they're all disasters of his own making. It's unprecedented. One of the largest and most immediate threats to the safety of this nation is going down right now at our southern border. It is a massive threat to our national security, and it's a disastrous humanitarian crisis. And that was all curiously engineered by the supposed humanitarian left. The economy is falling apart. The Bill of Rights is crumbling. The border situation is one of the first visible signs of what Biden policies have in store for all of us. And that is, they want it all to come down. Hello, America. I have never seen anything quite like our current state of the union. I know you know, and so do your Democratic neighbors that might have voted differently than you. Everything is falling apart. And not only that, it seems to be happening on purpose. This is really important. Tonight, I'm just going to focus on the border, but let's stick with the left's many all too obvious policies of national destruction. There's nothing you can say about any of this stuff. You can give them the benefit of the doubt and say it's incompetence. But after a while, you change course. If you're just incompetent, somebody will finally talk sense into you and you'll see the results. Why are they not changing course? Why are they doubling down each step of the way? Did you see the Senate hearing yesterday on Afghanistan on the withdrawal? I was shocked to hear that all of Biden's military, the yes men, almost seemed like they were in open defiance of what their commander-in-chief has publicly said. Listen to this from Biden several weeks ago, and then the retort from General McKenzie yesterday.
No one told your military advisors did not tell you, no, we should just keep 2,500 troops. It's been a stable situation for the last several years. We can do that. We can continue to do that.
No one said that to me that I can recall.
I recommended that we maintain 2,500 troops in Afghanistan. I'm confident that the president heard all the recommendations and listened to them very thoughtfully.
That's just Exhibit A. So which one's lying? Is the president lying or are the generals lying? Neither one of them is good. Every single general testified that it was their recommendation to President Biden to maintain a larger force during the withdrawal. Okay, if he wanted to go a different way, he ignored them. That's his prerogative. He's the commander-in-chief. But he didn't just ignore them. When the disaster struck, he actually had the cojones to go on national TV and lie to the American people and say, I had no indication that this was going to come. It's despicable. It's disgusting. And it is immoral. Biden lied, and 13 Americans died. Now, the real question is, do you really think you're smarter than everyone in the Pentagon? How do you make a unilateral decision to go against the advice from every single general that is advising you? Are you that arrogant? Or is your goal just different than what America's goal is? I don't know. It almost seems like the left wants our stature diminished on the world stage. They want to belittle us towards our allies. Oh, I almost forgot. They got that one too. One of our oldest allies isn't real happy with us right now. Aren't these the kinds of things that they said would happen under Trump? So was all that resistance over the past 4 years I don't know, some kind of weird reverse psychology to get Trump to do the opposite of what they had in mind for when they got into power? What was that? I mean, maybe it's just me, but the Bugs Bunny routine, no, you're not, yes, I am, no, you're not, yes, I am, yes, you are, no, I'm not, kind of seems a little dangerous to be playing, not to mention ridiculous. Democrats promised a more equitable economy. And, they were coming up to save the little man from Trump. Forget the fact that under Trump's policies, more minorities were employed and making more money than ever before. Fact. So where are we now? Well, everybody's family is paying for more basic goods. You're paying more at the grocery store than you have in 13 years. I'm not even going to start with gas. It's up $1 in the last 8 months. The Biden administration told us, don't worry. But now even the Fed is admitting that the spike in inflation is, gee, what a surprise, lasting longer than expected. But despite that, again, we're not changing course. You see, when you get new information, if you're an honest broker, you adjust the course. Sometimes you might have to turn the ship around. It was a bad idea to go here. But again, Biden is pushing his over $3 trillion spending spree and actually trying to convince people that that will help with inflation. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And what's happening? All of the signs are there. All of them. On every front. We all know, left and right, exactly what's going to happen. But they're doing it anyway. It is purposeful. It is self-induced. And it all points to the end of the United States, the crumbling of the entire system. Now, we've already seen the military seemingly in open defiance against the president, which is weird. I hope that it would only be a matter of time before the financial world would do the same, but that ain't going to happen. Politics is politics. But we are now quickly approaching a time of no return. And the same is happening at the southern border. The former Border Patrol chief, who has served under 5 different presidents, directly called out Biden's administration fiasco. He put the blame specifically on Joe Biden. I want you to listen to this quote. The professional staff within DHS is left perplexed, wondering who's really in charge and what the objective is. As a direct result of these decisions, control of our borders has disintegrated overnight, end quote. Well, gosh darn it, that is a good question, isn't it? Who is in charge? Is it the president? And what is their goal? Because again, if your goal is safety, if your goal is to protect America, if your goal is not to collapse us, you wouldn't be doing any of these things. And sure, you might be arrogant enough to go, no, that's not going to happen. I'm doing it my way. But at some point, everyone around the president should be saying, Mr. President, wrong direction. We've got to turn around. This isn't working unless you have a different objective. A few months ago, I would have said Obama is in charge of all this. But I want to show you something in an interview that aired yesterday on ABC with Barack Obama. Watch.
Immigration is tough. It always has been. Because on the one hand, I think we are naturally a people that wants to help others. At the same time, we're a nation state. We have borders. The idea that we can just have open borders is something that I think, as a practical matter, is unsustainable.
Oh, okay, wait a minute. Hang on just a second. First of all, I thought the left always claimed that open borders wasn't their agenda. But that kind of sounded like Obama labeling Biden's immigration policy as unsustainable open borders. You know, there's something else that you should take from that comment. Just like the generals yesterday in the Senate, here we have President Obama calling out Joe Biden on what he's doing. Now, it's Obama's people all around Joe Biden. Is the left cutting their losses and signaling it's time for Joe to go? I go back to the former Border Patrol chief's question, who's really in charge and what is the objective? Don't know who's really in charge. Assume it's the president. But I can hypothesize on the objective because the facts speak for themselves. And here's the objective. How do we get the entire system to collapse? Why else would you ignore all of the advice of your Pentagon staff, then proceed with disastrous policy, then lie about it as it all comes down? He's doing it with the border as well. As thousands of Haitians swept the Texas border, the outcry became too loud. So what did Joe Biden promise? Well, they actually responded and said they would begin deportations. Finally, right? Finally, something would help deter these massive migrant caravans. But not so fast. Homeland Security admitted on air that they had released over 12,000 Haitians inside the United States. We don't know where. Oh, they also let it slip that 1 in 5 had an illness. I wonder what that illness might be. Why are they lying? Why are they now continuing policies that, as per the Border Patrol chief, again, and I quote, as a direct result of these decisions, control of our borders has disintegrated overnight. Just like the economic information, the data is all there. Just like with the Afghani situation, the data was all there. It would take a moron to continue to do the things that we're doing unless you have a different goal. Let me show you some actual data from the border. These are actual numbers. I want you to remember this every time the left somehow claims it was laughably Donald Trump's fault. I want you to take a look at 2020. This was after 3 years of Trump in charge of the border. Encounters between the Border Patrol and illegal immigrants was 345,880. Now let's look at fiscal year 2021, which covers the election and 8 months on Joe Biden. There have been almost 1.5 million encounters, and the year isn't even over yet, and that's only counting the people we saw and talked to. That's a 325% increase, and these numbers don't even show September and October. This is an invasion, and the Democrats continue to lie about it. We won't. We will tell you the truth. That's why we're bringing in a veteran reporter and somebody who has just finished a documentary on the border, who practically is living this every single day, Lara Logan, next. All right, let me tell you about Built Bar. Every day I wake up in bed, I jump out of bed with a big old smile on my face, and I'm like, yeah, I get to come here and talk to you about destruction and all of that stuff. Okay, none of that happens. But I do get out of bed every day and I come and talk to you about all this. And you know what makes it a little easier? Built Bar, or 5, that are waiting for me to snack on throughout the day. Why Built Bar? They're delicious. And apparently some people say they're healthy too. Why 5 of them? Because I'm more interested in the delicious part than I am in the healthy part. But you can eat how many you want, whatever it seems right for you. The makers of Built Bar understand that flavor has to come first. And whether it's their mint brownie flavor, which is great, salted caramel, cookies and cream, they're amazing flavors. And rest assured that real chocolate and great taste come first. They're also healthy, low carb, low calorie, high in protein, high in fiber, blah, 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 blah. You're going to love them. Go to Built.com right now. Built.com. Use the promo code BECK15. Save 15% off your first order. Use promo code BECK15 for 15% off at Built.com. I believe the border is deliberately being set on fire. The question is, why? And it's most frustrating because no one is asking the right questions. Someone who does ask the right questions is now, God bless, this is the heart of a reporter. Things got dicey. She's like, I'm on a plane. I'll go into the bathroom on the plane and call you. Joining us now in a plane bathroom is Fox Nation host Lara Logan. Hi, Lara. God bless you.
Hey, Glenn.
Yeah, this is going the extra mile.
Well, it's important. And you know, you're one of the few out there who gets it. So I'm not going to miss any chance to speak to you.
God bless you. So, Lara, there is no way that that they are shooting for, the Biden administration is shooting for the same goals that we're all shooting for on the border, and that is a lack of chaos. Yesterday, even Barack Obama said this is open borders and it has to stop, but he went a step further. He said it's chaos and it's been a problem for a long time and we've got to change the system. Are they just trying to collapse the system, to change the system? What is the motivation here?
Well, these are the key indicators that I see, Glenn, right? Because I never like to speculate as to what people's motivation is. Only they really know. And I put that in a category of the unknowable. But here's what we do know, right? We know that in 2018, the United Nations came up with something called the Global Compact on Migration. And that is where they established migration as a human right in the eyes of the world. And if you look at the language of the Global Compact of Migration, it is precisely the language of Jen Psaki and Joe Biden and everyone in this administration. What do they talk about? Safe, orderly, regular migration. They have gone so far as to remove the language of illegal from the language of the United States and from our agencies, right? No one's allowed to talk about illegal migration anymore. No, we talk only about waves of regular and irregular migration. We refer only now to migrants, right? Look at the New York Times, look all across the media. They're taking the law out of it without ever changing the law. They haven't gone to Congress and they haven't gotten bipartisan support. They haven't gone to the voters and gotten support for this. You know why? Because most Americans do not support it. Most people on the border believe in a secure border. Most Americans believe in the sovereign right of a nation to protect itself. But what they're doing is they're creating a human right which supersedes the sovereign rights of nations.
This is crazy.
It supersedes immigration law, and it supersedes everything that it is to be American. So they've dismantled ICE without dismantling it. They've defunded the police without defunding it. And I would caution people to be a little bit circumspect about Barack Obama, right? Because Obama is very good at being the foil. He's the guy that appears to be reasonable, that comes in and says, we shouldn't have used the words defund the police. But he doesn't say we shouldn't defund the police.
Right.
And if you go back to 2019, look at what he did at the UN, the Safe Cities Community Policing Alternative to Real Police. Obama is one of the architects of all of the political infrastructure around opening the border and defunding the police. Right. But he's very, very good at creating this deception.
Absolutely.
And making it hard for people to see the real intent there.
So, you started with saying, I hope that's not an announcement that you have to listen to, but you said that the UN is doing this. And that might sound crazy, but let me give you something from a news source. The news source is news.un.org. UN agencies begin registering asylum seekers at U.S.-Mexico border. What they are doing, the UN, is processing 25,000 applicants in Mexico and then turning them over to the United States. UN agencies involved in the exercise: the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, International Organization for Migration, the UN Children's Fund. They're conducting in-person registration, ensuring humane treatment of children and their families, and carrying out COVID-19 tests. I mean, nobody's talking about that.
You know what, Glenn? I reported from the very beginning of this administration that they had United Nations monitors on the southern border of the United States who were monitoring U.S. border agencies and monitoring U.S. immigration policy. There are several reporters, one of whom actually found a UNICEF manual at the southern border just in the last few days. His name is Ben. He's on Instagram. He's doing an amazing job. And this manual is so significant. You know why? Because it's a guide to how to cross the world and go through all of these other countries to reach the United States of America, to reach the southern border. If your real aim here is to get people to safety and to help people migrate because they're fleeing some kind of crisis in their own country, then you don't need a guide to how to cross every other country in the world to reach the United States. And another thing, Glenn, last week at the UN, what was it all about? Climate change, climate change, climate change, right? All this nonsense that they keep pushing, this catastrophe that they never define. Well, guess what else they said? There will be 1.2 billion climate refugees that are going to exercise their human right to migrate because of climate change. What does that tell you? That 1.2 billion, they're headed where? They're not headed to the next safe country, right? According to the UN and what they have put in place with the assistance of other nations, including this administration, those people are going to make their way to the United States. And they have a human right to migrate that is now recognized by countries all over the world. And the best part is, if you and I talk about it, we're the conspiracy theorists, except they're actually implementing this.
Okay.
And they want us to be so scared that we don't address it.
I have 90 seconds for you to address this. I know you just did a documentary for Fox, and you say the cartels are transforming because of this border situation. What are you seeing on the border with the cartels? 90 seconds.
The cartels have become the most powerful criminal organizations on earth. They control more than 95% of the global trade in narcotics. They now have a new partner in the narco-terrorist state that we have created in Afghanistan. They are the main beneficiaries of this open border policy. The Biden administration knows it, and they do nothing about it. In fact, every action they take further empowers the cartels. They want us to talk about the border only in terms of migration, and they will not have a conversation about national security. And that is the conversation that we need to have, because we are in real trouble at this point.
All right, Lara.
There is no southern border.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you for calling in from the bathroom of an airplane. You are the best. Thank you. God bless. All right. So why did so many migrants and so-called refugees swarm the border seemingly overnight? How did all those Haitians get there? We explain after the break. You know, I wish for once more people read Time magazine. They laid out the potential death of the dollar in a fascinating and a little terrifying piece last week. China just opened up a digital currency to foreigners, and when they host the Winter Olympic Games, they expect the whole visiting world to utilize and test it. China is estimated to be about 10 years ahead of the United States, but mark my words, a digital currency from the United States is coming. It may be too late. In the article, they say that other countries are really going to have some problems, especially the United States. Other countries are sincerely interested in finding ways to decrease their dependence on the U.S. dollar. And we're facing a world where the U.S. dollar is not the reserve currency of the world. That means everything you have, all of your money, is going to be cut dramatically overnight. We will be a second world nation, maybe a third world nation. Venezuela, here we come. Please call Goldline now. They're offering an end of the month special. From now until Friday, you're going to receive one free 1 ounce silver Goldline branded bar with every qualifying purchase order. Don't wait. Please find out how you can protect yourself and your family. 866 Goldline, 1-866-GOLDLINE or goldline.com. So every time there is a crisis on the southern border, we get this vicious cycle of disinformation. We saw it last week, lies from mainstream media that is primarily interested in ideology and scoring political points. Then when the crisis dies down, the media moves on, and no one really learns anything at all from that experience. And no practical changes are made to our border policy. We're set up to repeat the cycle, lather, rinse, repeat, lather, rinse, repeat. That's it. I want to turn to Todd Bensman because he is a voice of reason, a voice that is coming from an expert's place on matters of immigration and national security. Todd is a senior national security fellow for the Center for Immigration Studies. He is also the author of a recent book, America's Covert Border War, the Untold Story of the nation's battle to prevent jihadist infiltration. Boy, that's out the window now. Todd, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me again, Glenn.
You bet. Give me an update on what is happening with the Haitians. Are there still thousands there?
The camp is liquidated, gone.
Oh, wow.
Bulldozers are scraping it clean so that there's no trace that this thing ever happened. This was a really pressing political problem for the Biden administration, and they moved very quickly to take care of this very visible part of the border crisis. Really, I mean, it was more of a small solar flare, but that small solar flare attracted a lot of media attention.
Why?
15,000.
Why did that attract such media attention? And by the way, 15,000 people. We thought they were flying them back to Haiti, or at least turning them around to the border. 11,000 out of that 15,000 are here someplace in the United States. They just let them in.
Well, the administration has just been letting in tens of thousands all along for months, since February at least. Every day, all day, every month, all month, on and on, with paroling family units into the country with basically on an honor system. I mean, they just say, please report to an ICE officer in the city of your choice.
Sure.
And there's no possible way to enforce that. But getting back to your original question, why did the media pay attention to this one? Because they pooled up in a very public place right under a bridge where a lot of cars and trucks are passing by, and you can't miss that. The 50,000 people that are coming across the border every week, I'm going to just repeat that, really dwarfs this 15,000, but it happens kind of in the brush, in out of the way places. You have to kind of hike down to it. You could see it though. I go down there all the time and I see tens of thousands, hundreds and hundreds of people just pouring in over the border everywhere else. These Haitians are still coming in. They're coming in somewhere else where the cameras aren't.
So
they're still coming in.
I've heard that there is another massive caravan of Haitians coming in. Is that true? Is that on its way someplace?
There are probably 70,000 immigrants from around the world, not just Haitians, but the Wall Street Journal just reported a couple weeks ago, they went to the Darien Gap, which is the passageway between Colombia and Panama on the way to the U.S. southern border, and the numbers are historically through the roof. Nobody has ever seen numbers like this, 70,000 coming through. I've been reporting about the Darien Gap for quite a while. I just came back a couple months ago from the Costa Rica-Nicaragua border where I saw it happening, just hundreds and hundreds of people pouring through that part of the route, having come through the Darien Gap. And the reason why they're coming in these numbers right now is because the people that go before them get in. They get paroled in, and the word spreads around the entire world, and not just to Haiti, or Chile and Brazil, where most of them live, but to Pakistan and Afghanistan, Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, Jordan, all of those kind of countries, Saudi Arabia, and those people are among them. I met Angolans on this trip down there to Del Rio. I have met recently people from the Islamic Republic of Mauritania. 5 of them came through. I interviewed them. Senegalese. They're coming from all over the world because they know they can get in. right now under the Biden
And we're
administration.
also
and they
flying
couldn't.
some in with very little scrutiny from Afghanistan, flying them right directly into our nation. So
That's another novel.
I know. So here's the question that I've been asking myself, and I can't come up with a non-sinister answer. What is the goal? How could this possibly happen? And if the goal isn't to destroy America and to let anybody and everybody in, what is the goal? Because I'd like to know what metrics they're using to measure success.
So I get asked this question all the time, and I never have a better answer than what I'm about to give you, because I try to veer away from the sinister, like it's a master plan. I get why people come to that conclusion. The best I can come up with is that the Biden administration is firmly in the sway of its progressive left wing, which is ascendant politically. The Bernie Sanders people, the progressive left, which resurged during the Trump years, and really believes in open borders, no borders, demonizing border patrol people that carry badges and guns. And they feel like these are black people and Latino people and minority people. They believe that if you stop them from coming in, it's racist and inhumane. And that sort of thing. And so there's this pressure to just let everyone in.
Wow.
And I think this Joe Biden, not that long ago, was opposed to this sort of thing. Obama would never have allowed something like this. Those were Democrats. I mean, nobody in the history of the country that I know of has purposefully
done this,
enabled and enticed this to happen. I can only think that it's to appease his left wing, the far left, which he needs as the coalition.
All right. So, Todd, you have focused on the border on national security. I've got about 2 minutes. Okay. Tell me what's coming through with national security, and when are we going to start feeling this?
Okay. Well, think Yemenis, since I only have 2 minutes. In January and again in March, Yemenis came through the border at Calexico, California, and they were on the FBI's terrorism watch list. One of them was on the no-fly list. There is a stream of people coming from Yemen and a stream of people coming from other places in the Middle East. Pakistan, we can expect there to be a stream to start coming to kick up more from Afghanistan. And we already know about the vetting security processes there. They're not good. And so when the border is in this kind of stress, when there are no Border Patrol agents anywhere, because they're all doing, Walmart greeter duty over at the migrant camp and processing everybody in, these people can come through undetected very easily. And if they get into the interior, there is no deportation anymore. The Biden administration ended deportation as we have always known it. So I think that the risk is elevated right now. I'm very worried. I don't like what I'm seeing down there. And I just feel like it's going to, at some point, result in some sort of an attack. And I hope the FBI catches them first and that sort of thing. I really hope that that we can get the broader border under control here. And it's not just the Del Rio camp. That was 15,000. Think 50,000 a week.
Todd, thank you for everything. Appreciate it. We'll talk again. Now, Jen Psaki whined to reporters that Republicans should stop giving speeches at the border and start giving solutions. Well, one congresswoman has an answer for Jen. Next. All right, if you are one of the millions of Americans who suffer every day from pain, I want you to listen up. There is hope, and it comes in the form of Relief Factor. Every day I see testimonials of people who've tried Relief Factor and gotten their pain and their life back. They got the pain under control. And I know it can happen firsthand. A couple of years ago, I had pain, lasted me 10 years. I just thought it was over. I thought this is the rest of my life. And I couldn't play with my grandkids. It was awful. It was absolutely awful. Couldn't paint, couldn't do anything that I wanted to do. Well, then I started taking Relief Factor. And I'm telling you, that pain is gone. I got my life back. Now, it doesn't happen to everybody. 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. So just try that 3-week quick start. It's a trial pack for $19.95. 70% of the people who order that try it, and they go on to order more month after month. If you want a drug-free and natural way to get your life back, go to relieffactor.com. That's relieffactor.com.
We would argue that for all of those Republicans who are standing at the border and giving speeches about how broken the system is, why don't you join us and be a part of the solution instead of relying on speeches?
Oh my gosh, because the solution is stop doing what you're doing. How's that? Joining me now is U.S. Representative Yvette Herrell. She's from New Mexico's largest congressional district. It's right there on the border. She serves on multiple House committees and is a member of the conservative House Freedom Caucus. This week, she, along with Congressman Chip Roy, moved to force a House vote on a bill that would keep COVID-19 border restrictions in place. Representative Herrell, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Glenn. It's a true pleasure.
Well, thank you. You are on some committees. I've got to talk to you. I want to try to save time to talk to you about some other things because, you have your hands full. Let's start with what you and Chip Roy forced a vote on. What is the idea here and the odds that it will work?
Yeah, so I introduced the PAUSE Act early on when we first started seeing this open border crisis. And basically what that would do is keep President Trump's public health orders in play, meaning Title 42. This is the administrative policy that gives our Border Patrol agents the ability to do a quick check on the border and then expel those coming in our nation illegally from Mexico or Canada.
Didn't the Supreme Court rule that they had to reinstate that?
They ruled on the Remain in Mexico policy.
Okay.
So we've got two different things. We've got Title 42, which is the protective health order, and then President Trump also had the Remain in Mexico, which, as you know, President Biden stopped using it, then the court ordered them to start utilizing the Remain in Mexico policy again. And then Congressman Chip Roy and I have put together a discharge petition. Basically, we're trying to get all the House members, Republicans, to sign on, and Democrats, and this would actually force a vote for the PAUSE Act, the Title 42 bill, which would, because we're in this pandemic, it would allow our agents to do quick processing and expel those coming into our country illegally. And right now, they're only using it part-time. They're not using it on family units and only using it somewhat on young adult men. We need them to be using it all the time, just as they did, the Border Patrol did under the Trump administration.
How does anyone expect to have any credibility, or does it not matter anymore? To say we care about COVID and 98 or 99% of Americans need to be vaccinated, but you're dumping 2 million people who we don't even know if they have COVID. I'm sorry. DHS did say 1 out of 5 have an illness. I don't know if that's polio or COVID, but how do they justify this?
They don't. And what they're doing is holding the Americans to a double standard. And in fact, I understand the seriousness of COVID, but if it's really that serious of a health order, then why aren't we securing our borders?
Correct.
Because we saw a 900% uptick in COVID cases the first 2 weeks of July. So, Glenn, I'm no physician, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that you secure the border, you're going to cut down on the cases of COVID, but also, like you just mentioned, other infectious diseases. It makes no sense to put our children into places where they have to wear masks all the time, they have to get vaccinated to keep jobs. This is such a double standard that they're holding the American people to. And I think it's time that we have some transparency from this administration. And oh, by the way, if our border czar was doing her job, probably we could have seen some real help on our southern border, but I think our office has talked to more ambassadors than she has.
Well, let me, Texas gets all the press. It's an enormous state. People don't understand how big Texas is until they've driven it. Enormous state, huge border, but you're right next to us, and you've got a pretty large border yourself. What are the things that you're seeing in New Mexico?
Yeah, we have 180 miles of southern border, and I'm the only Republican in our delegation. But what we see in New Mexico is a little bit different, where we're not seeing just the hordes of people, coming across the Rio Grande and walking up to the checkpoints. What we're seeing in our state is a lot of people. These are gang-related folks. These are cartel members. These are drug runners. These are human traffickers. These are people in camouflage. These are people that are wearing carpet shoes. They do not want to get caught. And so we've seen a major uptick in the amount of property damage. And this is what Americans outside of border states don't understand. When you're a rancher on a border state, now we're seeing broken water lines, lost livestock, cut fences, stolen vehicles. There is no reimbursement for that. The insurance companies don't reimburse farmers and ranchers for lost property and lost livelihoods because of all the foot traffic and all the people coming across our southern border, which we haven't even talked about the amount of litter. There's over 500 tons of garbage and litter left through our entire public lands on private property, public property, as a result of all this foot traffic. So a lot of problems, but what is really frightening is I think it's a sad day when our administration is so fixated on a picture of a horse at the border, but they weren't fixated on 2 little girls dropped over the border wall. They weren't fixated on a 5-year-old little boy dropped at the edge of the Rio Grande in the dark of night. So the priorities are very wrong for this administration. And I think the people in this country need to start raising their voices and stop letting this administration hold them to a double standard.
What do you think their goal is? Because I've been asking this of all the guests. I can't think of anything that would have them sleep at night going, yeah, you know what, we're doing a pretty good job. Unless it's to destroy our border patrol and everything else. What is their goal? What metrics are they using?
That's a great question. And I think it's just a testament for their dereliction of duty. But you know what, Glenn, it's not just the border. Look what happened with Afghan. Look at these spending bills. I mean, look at the way that we're seeing our nation dismantled, one bad policy or one bad executive order at a time. I mean, and you can point to any issue and see what a debacle it is. The open border makes no sense to me. And like you and I talked about, this double standard of holding, American citizens to a standard of mask wearing, mask mandates, vaccination mandates, and yet having an open border. And here's an interesting tidbit. We had the Guatemalan ambassador in our office last week, and they're doing more to secure the border and to work out finding solutions. In fact, they're actually making anybody we deport back to Guatemala have a COVID test, whereas we can't even get a bill passed to do mandatory testing. And both the New Mexico U.S. senators voted against mandatory COVID testing as people are coming across our border illegally. So it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
I have to tell you, I love New Mexico. I think it's an absolutely stunningly beautiful state. But I could never live. It's kind of like California. I could never live in New Mexico, even though I'm very libertarian at heart. Do what you do. But the governor of New Mexico just signed over, 30% or a full 50% of the land to be preserved for some sort of climate reason.
We need like 3 programs for this. Yes, my governor, unfortunately, we've sent 3 letters to her to ask her to deploy National Guard to the border, but she's following suit with this administration, the 30 by 30. This is 30% of the land and water under federal management by the year 2030.
It's crazy.
Our governor, it's so crazy. And private property is not exempt. And so our governor, she went a step further and signed an executive order to go ahead and participate in this. So of course, Glenn, this compromises our production of oil and gas on public land. It compromises our allotments, our grazing allotments. It compromises our access, and all in the name of, global warming or Green New Deal, you name it.
You are on the Committee for Natural Resources, Committee on Oversight and Reform. You oversee the National Parks, Forest, Public Lands Subcommittee. You're ranking member of the Energy and Minerals Development. I mean, you are on. You must be losing your mind on what's happening in their country. I said today that if we don't turn this around, we will see 5, 6, 8 in California, $10 a gallon gasoline before you know it, because we're just choking everything off. Is that hyperbole?
No, that's absolutely fact. And every bill that's come through the committee so far has been a direct attack on our oil and gas development. It's been a direct attack on our minerals. And here's what we keep reminding the Democrats. Every time we're voting on these bills that are so bad for our energy industry, we're voting to move jobs overseas. We're voting to rely on our adversaries for energy development and for energy. We're going to be relying on our adversaries for food. And this makes absolutely no sense whatsoever, because this truly is a national security issue, but it's part of the job creation, it's part of our economics, and they are so bent on ensuring that we get this new Green Deal done. And in fact, they've even introduced what we call in committee the Blue New Deal, which is no offshore drilling. It has real compromises in it for our water supplies and our water storage, irrigation, acequias, etc. But it's all in the name of green energy. And look, I'm a all of the above type energy person, but everybody knows that we cannot function in this nation without fossil fuels. They are too big a part of our everyday lives. There are so many products we rely on. This gas price, not only for fuel for automobiles, Glenn, but for our heating and cooling our homes.
Oh.
I mean, we are actually we are really doing a disservice to the people who rely on us to make decisions.
I guarantee you, people will freeze to death. Coal is shooting through the roof. Natural gas is up 180%. I mean, where are the humanitarians now? Yvette, thank you so much. I appreciate it, and best of luck. God bless you for all the work you're doing in Washington.
Thank you so much.
Back in a minute. On October 9th, I'm going to be laying out a new vision for Mercury One, the Nazarene Fund. And it is the most ambitious thing we have ever tried. But people continue to ask me, what do we do now? What do we do now? How do we help? I'm going to outline that on October 9th. It'll be happening at the Toyota Music Center here in Dallas. You can get tickets. Just go to m1nextchapter.com. Get your tickets. All of the proceeds go to help keep the lights on at M1. This is our yearly fundraiser. We would love to have you there. And we're going to need you in the next year. So join us, m1nextchapter.com or .org, one or the other. And we'll see you there. Good night.